Russian commander Georgy Kosterko, known as Varyag, has been killed by Ukrainian troops during the operation in border Kursk region, Telegram channels reported on Tuesday. Kosterko, the commander of a unit in the 204th Special Purpose Regiment Akhmat, was killed during Russia's operation to recapture Sudza town in its western Kursk region in mid-March. 29-year-old Kosterko was the graduate of the Ryazan State Agro-Technological University. The Russian media reported that the commander was killed by Ukrainian cluster munition during Operation Pipe. The Operation Pipe, known as Potok, oversaw dispatching of Russian servicemen through a 1,420 mm diameter gas pipeline of the Urengoy-Pomaryazgorod main gas pipeline to the rear of the Ukrainian military, which took place on March 8. The operation was aimed at recapturing territory seized by Ukrainian troops in Kursk region. Russia reported on March 13 that its army recaptured Sudza town and 28 other settlements in Kursk region. Sudza was the biggest town seized by Ukrainian forces last year. Ukraine launched a surprise cross-border incursion into Kursk last August in what became the largest-scale attack on Russian territory since World War II. Akhmat Regiment, known as Akhmat Special Forces Unit, is a paramilitary organization that has played a major role in Russia's full-fledged invasion of Ukraine, in coddling the operations in Russia's Kursk region.
As reported, Russia has started transferring North Korean long-range artillery systems to annexed Crimea, the German broadcaster ZDF reported in a potential indication that Pyongyang's involvement in the war on Ukraine could soon be expanded. North Korean troops have so far only been observed operating in Russia's Kursk region, where Moscow has been waging a counter-offensive against Ukrainian troops since August 2024. But with Ukrainian forces recently pushed back from Kursk, ZDF said Russia could quickly deploy a North Korean contingent to Crimea to target Kiev's forces in southern Ukrainian regions. The artillery systems in question, 170mm Koksan guns, are among the longest-range conventional field artillery pieces in the world and can strike targets up to 40 kilometers away with standard shells and up to 60 kilometers with rocket-assisted munitions. Defense Express military expert Ivan Kirichevsky says that at present there's no reason to believe that Russia has started bringing in North Korean troops to support its offensive on Kherson or Zaporizhia. Reports that the Russian Federation might bring in DPRK troops to attack the Kherson and Zaporizhia regions sound more like "I heard a bell but didn't know where it is." They make no sense. About 2 weeks ago, photos of a group of wagons near Zankoy appeared on social media. What matters isn't the trains, but the group of wagons. On them were what looked like launchers for the DPRK artillery system and several Koksan self-propelled guns. On one hand, seeing Koksan guns at the front is really unpleasant for us. This gun can fire 40 kilometers with regular shells and up to 60 kilometers with rocket-assisted rounds. In short, the Russians are clearly eyeing this system. It's a self-propelled gun with very strong specs. The Russians asked the DPRK for Koksan guns to counter NATO artillery used by the Ukrainian armed forces, he said on Espresso TV. The expert pointed out that while North Korea is supplying weapons to Russia, they're not rushing to send soldiers. Still, these aren't full trainloads of self-propelled guns, just a group of wagons. So writing in bold that North Korean troops are heading to Zaporizhia or Kherson is, to put it mildly, premature. The DPRK is generously arming its Russian comrades with ammunition and artillery, but it wants something in return. And second, they're still not ready to send their people. It turns out that one cannibalistic regime is in no hurry to hand over its people to another, the expert added. NATO is planning to combat a possible Russian invasion of the Baltic states. In this regard, Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania are preparing a Baltic line of defense, which involves strengthening a section of the border with Russia and Belarus that is about 965 kilometers long, writes The Telegraph. It is noted that the main elements of this plan were first announced in January 2024. Among them are 1,000 concrete bunkers, 600 of which are planned to be located in Estonia. They are planned to be supplemented with trenches, anti-tank ditches, ammunition depots and supply shelters. The publication emphasized that construction is proceeding at a rapid pace. However, its completion could take a decade. We need 10 years to prepare to counter the Russian threat. Putin will not allow us to wait these 10 years. The most dangerous time for the Baltics will come immediately after the ceasefire in Ukraine, warned former Lithuanian Foreign Minister Gabrielius Landsbergis. The publication also recalled a Danish intelligence report which said that after the war in Ukraine is stopped or frozen, Russia will be able to quickly rearm in order to start a war against NATO. According to analysts, in 6 months, Russia will have the ability to conduct a local war in a country bordering it. The publication added, according to the forecast, in 2 years, Moscow will be ready for a regional war against several countries in the Baltic region, and in 5 years for a large-scale war in Europe. In addition, the publication recalled that NATO countries signed a plan in 2023 to protect the Baltics with reinforcement lines from Finland, Poland and Germany. Now the alliance is deploying a battalion-sized, multinational force on a rotational basis in each Baltic country. Latvia is protected by a Canadian-led international force, Lithuania by a German brigade, and Estonia by about 1,000 British troops, the newspaper said. However, Tallinn, Riga and Vilnius fear a lightning-fast Russian invasion. That's why they want more, replacing the current battle groups with combat-ready brigades and a permanent NATO presence. We lack strategic depth. The Russians can go through the entire country in a few hours, if not days, so we defend ourselves from the first meter. Look at Ukraine and their captured cities. What they took back was a wasteland, Landsbergis explained. The war in Ukraine has taught the Baltic states the importance of deep defense and countering enemy mobility, the publication added. The big advantage in modern warfare is defense. New drones and satellite imagery have made it possible to have constant surveillance from above in Ukraine. You always know the enemy's positions. Mobile warfare is not dead, but it has become radically more complex, so fortifications take on new importance. Michael Diciana, a research fellow at the Institute of World Policy, told reporters. The publication noted that the new Baltic defensive line is not a barrier in the literal sense, like the Maginot Line, which was built by France in the 1930s to deter a German invasion. It's not a wall or a solid line of fortifications. It's more flexible, mobile, modern means of enhancing defense and deterrence, said Martha Kepp, a senior defense analyst at the RAND think tank. According to her, the goal of the Baltic States project is to give a possible Russian invasion a certain form by directing enemy forces into streams that can be attacked. This is another arrow in the quiver of Baltic defense, which cannot act passively on its own, Kepp emphasized.